Lisa Dozier King is a New Yorker who undeniably loves to fly. Her family has a great and long history with Delta Airlines, and she currently holds Diamond Medallion status. The industry she works in was put on hold at the start of the pandemic, and consequently, her work trips were paused. Here's the story of why she travels and her bright hopes for the future. Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. As you know, I have been interviewing many people who are very frequent flyers on Delta Airlines, including myself. Today's interview, I will be talking to someone who has not flown at all during the pandemic. She is based in New York City and does have a job in the theatrical industry, but she does need to fly quite often. As you all know, major events have been shut down during the pandemic. This includes sporting events, theater events, anywhere where there's a congregation of people. So I'm going to talk to my next guest about what's going on in terms of her loyalty to Delta. She actually has a tremendously long history with Delta when it comes to her family. Her mother flew Delta very often. Now she's a Diamond Medallion. We hope that she'll be able to maintain that Diamond Medallion status for the following year as things improve, especially with the vaccine coming out, but we're all kind of just gonna wait and see what happens. So I'd like to introduce to you Lisa Dozier King to my channel today. Lisa, welcome to my channel. How are you today?
Great, thank you for having me. It's so wonderful to be talking about flying.
Absolutely. It's something we both love to do. You are based in New York City. I've actually never interviewed anybody else who's based in New York City, so this is going to be an interesting interview. Most people I've spoken to are all over the country, but you're right here with me. So tell me, you fly a lot. What reasons do you fly for?
So I was starting out, we'll talk about my adult, why I fly right now, and then we can kind of delve into that I've been flying since I was in the womb. I fly a lot because I do work in the theater industry. I'm a producer and a general manager, and I was lucky enough prior to the pandemic to have productions in London, in Chicago. I also have a rich history of producing theater in Florida. So I fly quite frequently doing that. I'm also a professor at the University of Florida. So I get to fly back and forth to teach my amazing students as well.
And how many years have you been doing this frequent flying for when it comes to this particular job?
Let's see. I would say my diamond status, I've been a diamond for 4 years now. And prior to that, I was a platinum for 3. So the lion's share of my traveling's been in the last 10 years for business. I've always traveled for pleasure. It's my number one hobby is traveling.
And when you were traveling for pleasure, did you also have medallion status too?
Yeah, I think I was a gold probably 3 years before that, and then a silver for 1 year, and then I started to become obsessive about it and figuring out how I could get the most of my traveling time with Delta and the options that they give you.
And it sounds like you almost fly exclusively with Delta. Do you try any other carriers or just Delta?
I have a couple of times, and I've learned my lesson, and whenever possible, I fly Delta.
Okay. We're both very true Delta loyalists. So in terms of your international travel, you say you go to London. Are you doing this on a Delta aircraft, or are you doing something in the Sky Team, or if you're doing any other travels within Europe? If you're taking, let's say, a side trip once you're in London, how do you maintain flying within network on the Sky Team brand so you can get more miles to get to your status, or do you fly other carriers there?
That's a great question, and especially as we see how things are going to evolve with international travel coming out of the pandemic, I've been wondering how that's going to shift things. I first look, I often call the Diamond line and I see what my options are and if there are any directs from Heathrow to whatever the destination is. And if they're not, I look at who the partners are and if I can still book through Delta. I've taken a couple of flights with Sky Team members and had wonderful experiences. Lufthansa last year before the pandemic hit, and then also Air Italia.
Very good. All staying within the Sky Team network. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about your past. I know that Delta has been a part of your life. Your family seems to be flying Delta forever. So, and you mentioned that you've been flying Delta since you were in the womb. Hopefully, I don't think they were able to give you any MQMs at that particular point. That would have been nice, though.
You know.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about your family's history with Delta and how often and why the flying has been occurring.
Great. I think this is one of the things in our chat today that I'm most looking forward to talking about because it lets me gush on my mom a little bit, who is my best friend. So my mom got a job at Delta as a flight attendant at 21. The backstory is she had applied for Pan Am and for Delta, and she ended up working at Delta. And we're glad that that worked out the way it did. And my mom didn't travel very much growing up, and she always had these big dreams of wanting to travel. And she was going to go to law school and become a defense attorney. And then she got this job with Delta, and it really became her career calling. And let's see, so she started flying a year before she had me. So quite literally, I was in the womb while she was, an early career flight attendant, flying out of Miami. And then throughout the years, and then we'll talk about what her retirement has looked like. My father worked in the newspaper industry, and wherever his career led him, she would change bases. So we moved around significantly, and people thought I was a military kid. And then they would hear where I lived, and I would explain my mom's hub. So we lived in Dallas, we lived in Detroit. We lived near Cincinnati for a while when that was a huge hub for
Right. I remember that.
And the joy of the traveling that we did and the opportunities that Delta afforded families is something that I will always be grateful to Delta for giving me. I remember being 8 years old and taking my first trip, my little sister and my first international trip, and we went to Ireland. And I entered this kids' writing contest about the coolest place that you've traveled. And my mom read the essay that I wrote, and she said, you have to rewrite this. You didn't write very much about Ireland because you spent the entire 500-word essay talking about what it was like to fly on Delta. So, and so those are my memories tied in with the cultural experiences I got, the exposure to the world, which has shaped who I am and what matters to me and matters to me as a mom. Those experiences of the sacredness of being on the plane and the quiet and making, talking to the pilot and all of those things are such childhood highlights for me that there was no chance I was going to be anything but a grown-up Delta kid. Coming into adulthood, and then also with my business travel as life has progressed and my career has progressed.
Right. So Delta's in your blood. What are some of the top destinations that you like to fly to? A couple of questions. Top destinations. Are there any specific aircraft on Delta that you like to fly on? And do you look for a certain seat when you're booking a flight, or do you just take whatever you get?
I am a very A-type person, so I know pretty much what the flight paths are especially when I have a show in production, right? When I was going to London prior to COVID hitting 2 to 3 times a month, I knew all of the flight schedules, the aircrafts. Virgin is also an airline partner that I was flying quite frequently, and I love their product. So for me, it's less about the aircrafts, even though I know about them, and more about where I'm going to sit on each of the flight paths, and if the aircraft changes, then I'm acutely aware and making sure that I have, the seat that will, provide the best comfort for me and also with working. And also if I'm traveling with somebody or not. So, let's see, my favorite recent destinations, I got to use my Delta Diamond upgrades to fly with one of my business partners and closest friends in a D1 suite to Tokyo a year and a half ago, which was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And the flight attendants were laughing at me because I was enjoying because it was a brand new product and I was enjoying, all the gadgets and, and playing with everything and talking to them about it. So that was wonderful. And London will always have a piece of my heart, and getting to travel and experience that both as a D1 product on Delta and also Virgin upper class as well. And their Sky Club, the Virgin Sky Club at Heathrow is my favorite I would say it is my favorite sky club in the world.
Lounge. Yeah, yeah, I've seen some pictures of that. That's absolutely gorgeous. I haven't had the opportunity to fly on Virgin. Well, I did years ago, but not when I was a medallion. But I'd love that opportunity to actually go there. And I've done similar things, just staying within the network on KLM and Air France. And of course, whenever I'm crossing the pond, which isn't very often, I'm mostly a domestic traveler. Flying in Delta One, but I haven't gotten to the Delta One suite. Generally, out of New York City, I'm noticing that the aircraft are older aircraft out of JFK. They're the A330s and the 767s. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming you're on an A350 when you went over
Mhm.
to Asia. Yeah, I haven't been able to fly in the aircraft a
Well,
lot.
I, Peter,
Oh,
I'm a super nerd, and what I did was to be able to fly it. I made my poor friend and business partner connect with me on an early morning flight through Washington, so we could do that.
yeah, I think
I
I need to do that
was
next
very
time.
happy when we got on the plane, but it was a very long travel period.
Yeah. And are most of your flights out of JFK or LaGuardia?
For a while, when I was commuting between Miami and the city, it was LaGuardia. But then the lion's share of my travel ended up lending itself to JFK.
Because of international travel.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you have that opportunity to do that from JFK, absolutely. And your community, your coworkers. So I actually saw a video, maybe it's a decade ago now, of a whole bunch of Broadway singers singing at a delayed flight that they were about to board. And I was quite excited about that because I looked at the background and I said, wait a second, that's the D terminal at LaGuardia Airport. These Broadway people are flying on Delta. That's great. Do a lot of people in your industry fly on Delta Airlines? From what I see on YouTube, at least, yeah.
And there are a lot of show partnerships with Delta and with other airline carriers too. It's been wonderful for me as I've been expanding with my business outside of the New York City theater scene into other territories to see with the creatives and with the actors, people that we're bringing over, also tours, the loyalty that a lot of people have to Delta, and we're like a little club within the theater industry. So there are creative team members that will say, "Oh, you're flying over to London for a site visit. Which aircraft are you on? Which plane? Let me check your flight path and see when you're going to hit wind." And it's created this whole little family within the community of Delta supporters and loyalists, which is
Well,
really
that's great. So I'm excited to know that it's not just the av geeks only. You've got the theater community that are doing the same thing, looking at different apps on your phone, tracking flights, etc. So it's everywhere. If it's in the theater community, it's in every community, I'm sure. Absolutely. Great, great. So Delta is definitely part of their life, part of your life, part of everyone's life, part of my life. Are you able to, let's just change the topic for a moment about what's going on right now. Are you able to work? There are no shows basically anywhere in the world. Are you working at the moment and getting ready to prepare for future shows that you're producing so that you can get on an air, not forget about the show, but so you can get on an airplane again? Or what's going on with you right now in terms of business? It's the entertainment industry and it's been severely impacted by COVID-19. What's going on in terms of work that you think you'll be able to do perhaps in the next couple of months, especially with the vaccine coming around?
So with being a general manager and producing, our lead up time is significantly longer than one would think for doing a show, because every show is essentially a startup, right? So to be able to create a business that's ultimately going to employ at a peak, sometimes in upwards of hundreds of people, and then weekly maintaining with a cast and backstage and all of that, often 100 people, we're starting to see a little bit of the light with the vaccines coming out and trying to plan as best as we can with forecasting for the future, because we do need that, pardon the pun, we need the runway space to be able to properly plan. During COVID, we've been doing a lot of streaming content, an inordinate amount of streaming content, which is wonderful because it's helped artists with being able to employ them in some capacity. But it's been challenging for our industry because we have, especially with our artists, we have been so deeply affected by this that everybody just can't wait to get into a rehearsal room together. And I can't wait to get on a plane and just have that couple of hours of quiet and then get into a rehearsal room with everyone. So
Yeah, it's we're getting there. We're definitely getting closer. Here in New York City, they just did announce that one of the sporting arenas is going to start to allow small groups of people. Theaters is difficult, of course. You've got those tight seats right next to each other, and even if you spaced out people within the theater, if you do, let's say, every other seat like Delta is doing, blocking the middle seats, the revenue stream is just not going to come in from ticket sales. So
right, it's not possible because our business model is very challenging to begin with. So to reduce capacity in the fashion that that arena is doing it, uh, the lion's share of our productions wouldn't make it. So it makes no fiscal sense to do that for us.
Yeah, and it seems like the only company, even if you start talking about the airline companies, for Delta, which is the only airline that's blocking the middle seat, it's actually working. They are able to do it, even with the situation that we're in. So they're able to. I don't know if they're turning a profit or not, but they're not hurting basically, and they keep extending the blocking of the middle seat every month or so. It seems, which is another reason why I'm grateful for that, and only flying on Delta for other reasons too. But just making sure that I'm socially distant from others, and it's just tough. You can't do that in a Broadway theater, or even for the actors. How do you do certain scenes with social distancing?
Right. I had a show that was getting ready to go into rehearsal. They were supposed to go in maybe a month after COVID, really, the shelter in place started last year. And we were in an off-Broadway theater with a 25-person cast. So that show is on hold as we figure out safety protocols, because backstage and keeping our company safe and the audience safe is the same goal, So all of those mitigating factors will be interesting to see how the industry comes back.
Yeah. Now, at this point, let's say if something did come up, let's say in London or in Florida, and you really needed to get to that city to work with somebody in person, would you feel comfortable flying right now?
In this exact moment, I don't think I'm ready yet. I'm tracking it because those asks are starting to pop up with meeting requests, and when you're going to book a theater, you need to look at it. It's real estate, right? So
Right.
trying to also hedge when there's going to be that comfort level prior to being vaccinated to fly. And I don't have an answer on it yet, though we address it every single day in Zoom meetings that I have.
Yeah, it's a very difficult decision for all of us. I did fly during the pandemic twice. I did one back in July when things weren't that well in the country. Well, where they were okay. And I actually did another trip just recently. We are on a decline, but it's definitely nerve-wracking just to get into the airport. And it's exciting to be there, of course, because you haven't been there in so long. There was a 7-month gap between my flights. But just knowing what the airline is doing and the reduction of people, it was out of LaGuardia, which was basically a ghost town. I went into the Sky Club. There were about maybe 10 other people in the Sky Club in the D terminal, which is, unheard of. Normally, that's a place where you have to fight to get a seat. But it's definitely. I felt more comfortable as I moved along with it. So I'm sure you will too. Eventually, just it does take some time to get the vaccine. We all are trying to get in queue for it, but we always have to wait. We have to wait for our turn, of course. So
exactly. Waiting in line patiently.
And I think Delta, and you'll probably agree with me, is doing a good job responding to that in terms of extending the seat blocking. And in first class, honestly, I actually want to take it a step further. I just purchased a seat in first class to be even further away. I never do that. I purchased a seat in first class to be further away from others because the middle seat empty with someone in the aisle wasn't good enough. I wanted to just be totally away. So I just got one seat where I knew the seat next to me was completely blocked. And of course, them being larger seats, you are further away from passengers. So, yep.
Yeah, I think that Ed Bastian and his team are doing a phenomenal job, both with COVID, both with their response to Black Lives Matter. I've been just sitting back and watching the leadership, and I continue to be so impressed with Delta.
The messaging that comes through in my email at least once a week is absolutely phenomenal. And I have great confidence in the future of what's going to happen with Delta, just like you.
And their communication to us loyalists that have not been able to fly has been wonderful too. And like you said, to your point with the inbox messaging, comforting to see the outreach and them telling us what they're doing and the action steps they're taking.
Now, status has been extended, of course, from last year to this year. Do you think Delta should do more for 2022 by extending things or lowering thresholds? Or are you comfortable with the way they are? I'm panicking right now. I'm trying to book a lot of flights.
I am too, and I'm hoping as they have done, gradual extensions on Medallion Status, I'm hoping they're going to be lenient with that moving ahead, because so many of us, it's going to take a while to get back on our feet and back in the air. So I'm optimistic. I don't know about you, that they will be making some more announcements on that.
It's tough to tell. I really couldn't tell you. There really hasn't been much said at this moment, but as the year progresses and they notice that people are still not flying, maybe they'll do something. Hoping for it, because right now I'm looking to book trips, and I do have reasons personally to be throughout the country. So I am taking those trips, and I'm looking for not only ways just to get there, but to even make connections, double connections or triple connections, just to get there, just to get to that level of status. So it's not easy, but hopefully things will work out in the end. This is we're recording this video in February, so we're still early in the year, and hopefully things will change for the better, of course, and we'll all be vaccinated and we can all fly.
Yes, fingers crossed for a bright summer and fall.
Great. Well, yeah, absolutely. Lisa, is there anything else you'd like to talk about today?
The only thing I wanted to echo and come back to in your questions about COVID is my mom and her journey on Delta, because a lot of the loyalists have been following what's been going on with the employees and decisions and all of that, and reduced routes and whatnot. And my mom was one of the employees that decided to take the early retirement package. So she still wanted to fly for a few years. After my sisters and I left the house, she started flying internationally, and she just loved it. She made the most of her layovers to a point where I don't know if my mom sleeps. So with her decision, it was a very hard one to come by, but she felt like it was time. And also with the seniority, it was time to give the new up and coming flight attendants their time in the sky, was her word on that. So what I'm most looking forward to when we all do get back to whatever the new normal is and our flying is, I want to try to do a retirement flight for her, because she didn't get that. Which for anybody watching who doesn't know that, when pilots or flight attendants retire, there's an announcement and there's applause, and there's usually, a celebration in the air on that last flight. And I had always planned my entire life that I was going to be on that flight with her. So just because she did not get that because she was grounded, we're going to make that happen for her. And that to me will be a deeply emotional, cathartic moment, coming out of the hardship we're all experiencing, from the lens of what my family has experienced, and my mom tied to Delta. So.
Oh, that's a great story. Yeah, I really, really do hope that it happens, and I know it will happen. Hopefully, in a few months from now.
I'll check in with you about that when I do it. I'll send you a video.
Yes, I want to see a video of it on YouTube also.
On it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for that. That's been really, really fascinating. I really love talking to different people from different industries to see why they fly. And this is a story that's totally unique to yourself and your industry, which is an industry I really haven't spoken to anybody about. It's well known that there are no theater productions occurring right now, but things will get better. We will have more concerts. We will have more Broadway shows, regional shows, dance events throughout the entire world as we work on vaccinating more and more people. So make sure you get your vaccine. I know I'm in line for it. So when it happens,
trying to patiently wait.
Exactly. Yes. Great. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Lisa. And to all my viewers out there, thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to be featured in one of these videos, whether you fly Delta, you fly any airline, you're into aviation, you're not into aviation, you want to share a story, leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell button so that you're alerted as to every time I post something new for you. Thanks again, Lisa.
Thanks, Peter. Bye.